Welcome to a special trade day edition of CBJin30. As the NHL Trade Deadline hits, we'll let you know who's coming and who's going. Now let's look inside the Blue Jackets and around the league on CBJin30 with your hosts Bob McElligott and Jody Shelley.
And there's a live look inside the Blue Jackets war room, where we are almost at the deadline here. For the trades in the NHL, there's been a lot of them today. The Blue Jackets have reportedly been involved in one so far, but there's still about 15 minutes left and anything can happen. So we'll find out if there are any more. This is a special edition of CBJin30 Trade Deadline Edition, brought to you by T-Mobile. I'm Bob McElligott alongside of Jody Shelley. And there were a lot of deals that were done prior to today, Jody. So as you watch the deals that go down today, there have been quite a bit. Maybe not the big magnitude, because a lot of the big trades have been done prior to today.
Well, yeah, and you look at some of the ones that have done today. It was surprising early that Edmonton with Petrie right away made that move. I thought they were holding a pretty good card there. And, you know, I'm sure some general managers got up this morning and had a game plan in place and thought maybe they were in on a couple guys that went relatively early. And it's always interesting to see the reaction of teams that, you know, Tampa Bay makes a move with the Flyers, and then you see things kind of go and shuffle around. But there's been a holding pattern here of late, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be an exciting finish to this trade deadline day for sure. Yeah,
no question about that. And as we go through this show, we'll keep you up to date on what the Blue Jackets have reportedly done, what they may do before 3 o'clock. And by the way, that 3 o'clock deadline, it's a hard deadline, but for us it's kind of a soft deadline, because that's when the deals have to be turned into the NHL, and then those deals get approved. So sometimes those trades trickle out after 3 o'clock. So it doesn't mean once 3 o'clock hits, that's the only thing that could possibly happen.
No, I think 3 o'clock the fax machine is shut off, or if it's
they
an
still
email
using
or
that
stamp.
thing?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure how they do it, but it'll cut off the transactions. 3:01 is too late to certify that transaction. They'll process them, make the calls, and then you'll see probably a flurry of deals at the deadline.
So that's what's going on. That's what you can look forward to here in the next couple of minutes. And then we'll break down a little bit of the Metropolitan Division, because this division, and I don't know if it's fair to say it's taken on more of a change than any other division in the league, but there has been quite some change with the leagues. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Eastern Conference is pretty much wide open.
I think a lot of teams, and you say wide open, I think what you're saying is there's a lot of teams that feel that they can make a run. And you look at the New York Rangers and what they did last year. They've obviously made some big moves. The Montreal Canadiens are in the East, and you look at who's going to come out of the East, and the Metropolitan Division is definitely well represented.
Let's take a look at the reported deal that the Blue Jackets have done. Again, this is being reported by many outlets, and it is Jordan Leopold being sent to the Minnesota Wild. In addition, the Blue Jackets are going to get back a 5th-round pick from the Minnesota Wild, and they get Justin Falk, who's a defenseman that is split time between the National Hockey League and the American Hockey League this year. First of all, let's start with the pick for itself, because the Blue Jackets sent a 5th-round pick to St. Louis to get Jordan Leopold earlier this season. So they get that pick back, and then Justin Falk is, to me, this is just, it's kind of a bonus to get this guy. How he fits in, if he fits in the NHL or the AHL or whatever the case may be, I don't know. But just to get back that 5th-round pick and give Jordan Leopold a place where he can go and call home now for the rest of the year. When I talked to him the other day, Jody, he said that the trade deadline wasn't something that he was on edge about, because he just wanted some clarification and some certainty in his life, and he has it right now.
Well, that smile on his face, he's had that on his time here in Columbus, even though he hasn't been playing much. He's a guy that's been just a consummate pro when it comes to, you're not in the lineup, Jordan. You'll be skating tomorrow and working hard, and hopefully you'll get in next game. He's waited for his time. He hasn't been able to really use his leadership here, and it's frustrating, I know, because he hasn't been playing much. So really not a big leg to stay on or stand on when you're in and out of the lineup. But he's going back to his family is in Minnesota. That's a fantastic story that he's going back there. And for the Blue Jackets, as you mentioned, not only replace that pick that they spent to get him here, but to pick up a player who could be helping a team in the American League, which is doing very well to this point. It's a nice work by the Blue Jackets and what they've done here.
Yeah, no question about that. And remember, when Jordan Leopold was acquired from the St. Louis Blues, he was acquired because Fedor Tutin was injured, and the Blue Jackets needed that defensive presence, that veteran defensive presence, and they got that from Jordan Leopold. He went from being in the top 6 to very quickly being in the top 9 because other guys came back from injury. But as you said, He never whined about it. He never let you know that he was upset about it. He went about 2 months without playing a game. When he did, he came back as a forward for a game in Tampa, as a matter of fact. He was willing to do anything. Just when I interviewed him the other day, he said, look, I'm closer to the end than I am at the beginning. I'm kind of winding it down right now, and I'm just happy to be here and contribute in whatever way I can. And not all guys are like that. Everybody's a competitor. Everybody wants to play, and it's very easy to get bitter when you go from that 6 to a 9 and you don't know when you're going to play again. But as you said, he has been a consummate professional.
I love the way he came back in the lineup. You talk about playing forward. I mean, that just shows you a great attitude. And we got to see him practice. We got to see him leave practice. We got to see him get on the plane after not playing. And he was very consistent in his, just the way he carried himself, his demeanor. And I think that speaks volumes. It's not an easy position, trust me. When you're getting older in your career and you have to watch your team play, your team is losing, winning, whatever they're doing, you want to be involved. He took it right, and I'm glad to see him go, I think, where he wants to be. Obviously, with his family there in Minnesota, it's a nice fit for him.
Yes, he is from Minnesota. And a couple of weeks ago, the Blue Jackets were in Minnesota, and Jordan Leopold had his whole family there. The kids were on the ice skating after the morning skate. Just got a chance to see them, and that's something that he hasn't been able to do since he left St. Louis. This is the part that people forget about, and you can speak to this because you have a family and you've been dealt before. The thing that you don't think about is a guy gets traded, he's on a plane, he's out of there. The rest of the family is kind of in limbo until you figure out what's going on. And in a situation like this, he never even really did know what was going on up until right now. So there's a lot of other people that this affects, and you just think about the player. As a fan, you just think about the player because you want the player in your lineup to play the game.
Well, yeah, and he's been spending a lot of time on FaceTime with his kids and his wife, and just trying to communicate as much as he can. But he's living here, and it's really tough. He's got that family dynamic, but for him now to go back with them, he's got to be fired up. Minnesota's in that push to get in and try to do some damage in the West. So hopefully that works out for Jordan. And you talk about getting traded. It's this day is like it's just chaos, and not just for the players, but for the families involved. I remember the worst part, or one of the more shocking parts when my first trade from Columbus was the doors closed on the back side of the building. I had my gear and my sticks. I wasn't at the deadline, but it was just being traded in general, and I was like, now I'm no longer allowed in there. I'm not a part of that anymore, and I think that initial shock is something that's big when you get traded.
There was no debate that you were allowed to get back in last year.
Yeah. It took some time, though.
We're talking about Jordan Leopold and his family, and okay, well, here's some breaking news. This is breaking news right here. Cam Atkinson has been long rumored to go somewhere else from the Blue Jackets. The Boston Bruins were one team that was being talked about. Earlier today, we heard the Montreal Canadiens, New York Rangers. It's not going to happen. Cam Atkinson has re-signed with the Columbus Blue Jackets, a 3-year deal for Cam Atkinson. I'm sure there's been a lot of soul-searching going on to figure out if he's going to be part of this foundation, part of this future for this team. And obviously with a 3-year deal, that answer comes back as yes.
Well, and it's interesting. When you hear your name being speculated out there, and it's teams like the New York Rangers. Well, Cam grew up in Connecticut, and he was a Rangers fan growing up. I'm sure his friends and family in that area were really getting fired up for that. Boston, where he went to college, he was rumored to be going there. And there was texts and phone calls today from Montreal maybe. Where is he going to go? Philadelphia, all these teams in on it. But there you see the breaking news signed officially by the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's a 3-year contract extension. That settles everything down. That puts all those fires out on the rumors. And as for now, and see what happens with Cam Atkinson here.
As for now is right. I'm just looking at the clock. It's just before 3 o'clock. 3-year deal, does that make it more attractive to somebody?
That's what I'm wondering. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. You sign a guy like that, now you have an asset in your organization that does have a contract. So it might be more appealing for other teams. Let's not create any more rumors here.
No, but it's just
I like that. We'll see how that plays out in the next few minutes.
Yeah, as we get down toward that 3 o'clock deadline. And Jarmo Kekalainen is scheduled to speak to the media at about 3:30 today. He will stop by here first and talk to us about what he did, maybe what he didn't do, and the things we're talking about. Jordan Leopold going to Minnesota, Cam Atkinson getting a new 3-year deal, obviously all part of that. So, well, that kind of changes the dynamic again as we look at the clock and wait for 3 o'clock to come.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the initial reaction is, oh, that puts that out. But then you think, wait a second, what does that really do? Maybe there's more at play here. So initially, to sign a guy is one thing, But you got to think of these rental players and some of these players that aren't signed that are getting moved around today. It's pretty clear that they're going there for the playoff push. And we'll look at some of those as this goes on. But interesting here for the next few minutes.
And again, not to create any rumors on it, but here's the thing here's the thing that contract does. Now it puts a price on the player, right? Because now as a team, he was a restricted free agent. So he's now got a price on 3 years beyond this year. So if you're looking to talk to another team, they know exactly what that price is going to be.
That's right, and that's definitely a benefit if he's still in the trade market. I know there's a lot of interest in him. You know, there's teams all over that look for that skill, speed, that scoring. He's got the scoring touch. He can complement the top six. So who knows? But I thought when the Rangers signed Zuccarello, maybe that put them out of that race, and they've loaded up since with a defenseman and a forward they've picked up. So I don't know. It's interesting to see these teams, and there's teams that have been watching and waiting and wondering what piece are we going to get. We're waiting on that piece, and then they see these pieces move in other directions, and they've got to react now. So this is kind of crunch time when it comes to negotiating, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Hey, before we move on and we get past the 3 o'clock, let's wrap up what we were talking about with Jordan Leopold until Jarmo Kekalainen gets here. His daughter wrote a very touching letter to the Minnesota Wild, sent it to the Minnesota Wild. Chuck Fletcher is the general manager in Minnesota. Jordan Leopold's daughter sent them a letter, and this is the letter. It actually was sent to the coaches. It says, "Dear Minnesota Wild coaches, my name is Jordan Leopold, and my dad is Jordan Leopold, one of the Columbus Blue Jackets defensemen. Well, my dad is very lonely without us. And I am lost without my dad, and so is my mom, my 2 sisters, and my brother. My dad is on a team with young guys and is very lonely and is not playing because the Jackets got him because they needed a D-man. It has been since November, and we can't take it anymore. Well, to get to the point, the Wild have not been winning games, and you coaches, you lovely coaches, are most likely mad about that, but your team needs some more defensemen. So can you please ask the Jackets if you guys can get him? Thanks, love, Jordan Leopold." How about that? She sent the letter asking for her dad to be sent to the Minnesota Wild. Her wish is granted today.
That is awesome. Huh?
That's
good for her, young Jordan Leopold, to do that for her dad. And boy, that works out. That's got to be a nice phone call that she's going to receive or be informed about today when her dad gets back out there with them, and that's a nice touch. I don't know where you got that letter, but that's nice.
Twitter.
Nice
Everything's on Twitter. You want to find something, you find it on Twitter.
Oh,
we're going to try to get Cam Atkinson to talk with you on the show here. So that's what's going on with the Blue Jackets. Again, Jordan Leopold moving on to the Minnesota Wild. That's being reported. He's going to the Wild, 5th-round pick, and Justin Falk, the defenseman. There are 2 Justin Falks.
That's right.
In the NHL. There's one in Carolina, which was on Team USA, and then there's the other Justin Falk, who has split the time between the Minnesota Wild and the Iowa Wild, their American Hockey League team. So that's who the Blue Jackets get. And again, importantly, they get that 5th-round pick.
Yeah,
back.
That's a nice touch to get a player that can play. He's got some future, obviously, and he's playing in the American League right now. But if he goes to Springfield or if he comes here, there's obviously something there they like, and to get another player back, I think that's nice work by Jarmo and them to turn that 5th-round pick into a nice trade to get it back and then get a player.
Yes, and this draft is supposed to be a deep draft. Everything gets talked about, Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel at the top, and beyond that, there are a lot of players. In fact, the top 10 is supposed to be very deep this year, and beyond the top 10, somebody told me the other day the first 2 rounds at the very least should be very good. So every draft pick you get does give you the potential to get another NHL player. It's not fair to say, well, 5th-round pick, who are you going to get there? The point is you never know, because there are a lot of players. Look, Jonathan Ericsson in Detroit was the last player taken the year he was drafted. The very last player taken.
That's right.
And he just signed a new big-time contract with the Detroit Red Wings earlier this year. So it happens all over the board. You have to have those picks to get the players to get that chance.
Yeah, well, the draft is really the first step in the process. And you get with the right organization, or you get to fit in the organization, you find an opportunity, and then really you get drafted at 18 years old. Just think of the growth that happens between 18 and 25.
Well, it's supposed to happen. I don't know if it ever did with me. But
yeah, well. You know what I mean? There's a lot of potential and a lot that goes on in the draft, obviously. So these are assets. These picks are crucial pieces for these teams to get back. And the Blue Jackets, that 5th-round pick, they want to have as many as they can.
Yeah. We'll talk about the Metropolitan Division. A trade just came across here that caught my interest because you and I were just talking to this guy the other day. The Buffalo Sabres were here, and Torrey Mitchell was a former teammate of yours with the San Jose Sharks. And we were talking with him before he left the building the other day, and you asked him, are you going to get sent somewhere? And he said, I don't know. You know, it'd be nice to be in the playoffs, but if I don't, I don't. It's kind of nice in Buffalo. I like the situation there. It's not as bad as people from the outside perceive it to be. Well, he did get dealt. He just got sent to the Montreal Canadiens. So he's
from
in
Montreal.
Yeah, and he's in the playoff race now.
Well, that's good, and I think all those guys have—they're all on notice today. It's funny when you're on these teams right now. You're watching somewhere the trade deadline. You're watching the transactions come across. I heard Neuwirth today they're on the West Coast trip.
Yeah,
and he gets traded. They see it on the TV as it comes across the ticker. That's got to be a tough way to find it. He said he was eating sushi. I saw that report, and then he saw his name go across the ticker, picked up the phone, found out he was traded to Long Island. So these things are going to happen. And for Torrey Mitchell, I think they were all told that the players in Buffalo, no one's untouchable. So there you go. He's got to be thrilled to be going home to Montreal. I know his family's from there. He's a great kid, and he's actually a great player, a good skater. So a nice pickup by Montreal. They've made a few little moves today, but subtly, a few of these teams have done some nice things.
And they started it off by getting Jeff Petrie from the Edmonton Oilers first thing this morning. So Mark Bergevin has been very active, even if you look throughout the course of the year at some of the deals that he made there. And that goes all the way back to when he got Sergei Gonchar to help him on the blue line. Now, Gonchar's been hurt. We didn't see him the last couple of games that the Blue Jackets played against the Canadiens. But he has been steadily throughout the course of the year trying to fortify that team and make it better.
And he started as soon as he got there. I mean, he'd signed Brandon Pruss to a bigger deal than people thought he should get. But he is really the catalyst of their culture there. He's in between the young and the old. He's kind of a middle-aged guy. He's got some grit. They have an identity there where they play fast and hard. And to complement them with some of these players like Torrey Mitchell and Jeff Petrie, it's a nice movement by him and pretty good patience. And I don't think he paid very much for Petrie at all in the look that he got. I think it was a second and a later round pick for him today, and that seemed to be. It seemed that the price was going to be a lot higher, seeing how Braden Coburn went for a first and third and Gudas from Tampa Bay. So I thought that was kind of a market-setting, I guess, cost, and that was at 3 in the morning this morning.
Yep.
But no, it looked like Edmonton just took what they took that from Montreal, made that happen, and they've done nothing since.
And you're right. That was a second-round pick in this coming draft, and a conditional 5th-round pick in this draft is what Montreal gave up for Jeff Petrie. Speaking of draft picks, that's a lot of what's being traded here, and not just today. I mean, this is the last couple of days leading up to this. A lot of teams giving away those draft picks to get players that they can utilize right now.
Yeah, and says a lot about the draft. You know what I mean? I mean, it says a lot about how these GMs value their picks. And there's a lot of teams with not many picks. And then you look at Phoenix, who is loaded up with draft picks, dumped a lot of their big veteran players. And
we got Cam on, guys.
You got Cam?
Yep. We got Cam right now.
All right.
All right. This is how we do it live. Hello, Cam. How are you?
What's up, boys?
How you doing today?
How's it going?
Well, how's it going for you? Congratulations. What have the last 2 weeks been like for you, where everybody's been talking about where you're going to wind up, and that it seemed that everybody in the hockey world thought you'd be wearing any sweater other than a Blue Jacket sweater. Now it's announced that you have a new 3-year deal. How do you feel?
Yeah, obviously, I feel great right now. It's been, like you said, the last couple of weeks, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, I feel like I've got traded every day to a different team. But, I couldn't be happier to sign a 3-year extension with the Blue Jackets, where they were the ones who drafted me. I want to start here and end here with my career, and I couldn't be happier. And thank you to Yarmo and JD and, the whole Blue Jackets Foundation and organization for believing in me, and I'm really happy to be a part of this.
When did you get the first call today, or when did you start getting this this sense that this might be the way it was going for you today?
For the extension, or for getting traded?
No, for the extension. No, I know you've been battling with the trade, and God bless you for being able to play through all of that the last couple of games,
God.
And I'm sure it was wearing on you. But the extension, where'd that come from?
Yeah, well, Billy Zito called my agent I want to say probably 4 or 5 days ago, and just said that we want to start talking again. And he said we wanted to do a 3-year deal. So me and my agent sat down, and obviously on the phone, and just came up with numbers that we thought were fair for both sides. And then we didn't hear for obviously the next 4 days until today. So we weren't exactly sure what was going to happen, if we were going to get traded or whatnot. And around 11 o'clock, I got a phone call from my agent just saying that Billy just called, and they gave us their numbers, and then that's how it all began. And then it was kind of like a 4-hour process of just figuring out, coming to an agreement on both sides.
Did you get a no trade clause in there, Cam?
I got a no trade clause for, it was $245 when I signed, so I got a no trade clause for 15 minutes.
Well done.
Yeah, so I was happy with that.
When you talk about the last couple of games that you've been playing and this being going on and being the real first experience for you, dealing with trade rumors while you're still playing, how hard has it been for you? Again, we haven't noticed it when you're playing games, but what's it been like inside your mind?
It's been tough. It definitely weighs on you, no matter how much you tell yourself and tell your friends and family that it doesn't. When you play the game, it's one thing. You kind of just play, and everything else kind of goes blank or out the door. But, you have a lot of free time, especially as a hockey player. And, obviously during that downtime, you're thinking about where you're going to end up, especially after you look on Twitter. It seems like your name is going to every single team, but it definitely weighs on you a little bit on the ice too. I feel like I haven't really been able to play my game the last stretch or so, just because it's like one bad player. If I don't score this goal, it's like, oh my God, now I'm definitely going to get traded. But it's definitely nice to have the security, and now I can just focus on hockey and getting back to the things that I do well.
Maybe it's the other thing. If you do score the goal, you're going to get traded.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Cam, what are you guys doing today? It's a day off. Are you hanging out with teammates, watching the broadcasts, or are you just by yourself and checking in on what's going on with your buddies there?
Yeah, that's a great question. My girlfriend took the day off of work so she could spend the day with me.
In case she had a pack. She wasn't sure, right?
Yeah, she wasn't sure, too. She wanted to stick with me. So she's a good girl. She's a keeper. But the boys actually just surprised me right before, things really hit the fan with the talking with Billy. They came over around 2 o'clock. It's Hartsey, Foligno, Prouder is here, and now Doobie showed up. And this has all been going on while I've been talking with my agent, and my agent's been talking to Billy. So it was nice to have them here to kind of celebrate the good news with them, and they couldn't be happier.
Well, we're happy for you too, Cam, and glad that you're going to be a part of this thing for the long haul, and glad that you can finally breathe and know exactly where you're going to be, and it's where you've been the entire time. So congratulations on that new deal, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate it. It's always good to hear your voice.
All right. Remember you said that. Remember you said that when we come to you 100 times this next week. All right. Thank you, Cam.
Right.
We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
That is Cam Atkinson. He remains a Blue Jacket, and he gets a 3-year contract extension. For him, a little bit over $10 million, I think, it's being reported on Twitter. Everything's on Twitter.
True, then, yeah.
So, well, yeah, right. Absolutely. So, and
I like
good
what
deal
he
for
said
him.
there.
What's that?
You could tell, like he said, he hasn't been playing his game lately. And if you think about the excitement, like we talked about him, New York was in on the mix, Boston. So think of the friends and family dynamic. You go home, your dad's calling, your brother's calling, your friends are calling. You think you're really going to get traded to New York or Boston? So that's weighing on his mind. And he's trying to make the right play because he knows there's scouts in the building. Really, the unknown is what he's worried about. So now he gets signed up, and you could tell in his voice he's got a lot of excitement to have that commitment with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
And here's the thing from my standpoint, and tell me what you think, where this franchise is right now, where it is and where it's going. To me, I want to have guys here that want to be here and want to play here. And he certainly fits that bill, as you just heard.
It's funny, like every time you hear one of these players talk, they all say the same thing. They really like the group. And you're talking about a group that's been through a couple postseason pushes. And I mean, 2 years ago, almost making the playoffs. That's special. There was something special happened there with this group. They bonded. They worked together. They battled together. They went on a run at the end of the year that only they really know how special it was inside the room. You come into last season. Now they get rewarded. They pushed as hard as they could to get in that first round with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it just galvanized the group again because you see, they saw this city for what it is in a sports fan experience. And as an athlete in this city, the experience that you receive from these fans when you have some success. So they come into this season, and I just think that group, that's why this group is so tight. And you have guys come in like Scott Hartnell, a veteran, who walks out of the room after being there for 2 weeks and says, I love these guys. These guys work together. They love being around each other. So Cam is one of those guys, important part of that group. So to have him on a contract like that, great job, and it's good to hear that appreciation that you talk of.
Yeah, and he is, again, as we said, it puts his mind at ease. It puts his teammates' mind at ease, too. And what you're talking about, he was talking about all the guys that came over.
Yeah, I mean, there you go.
To hang out.
I mean,
that tells you something, doesn't it?
Yeah. They live close, obviously. That's one thing. But no, it is. It's an important feeling to know that your guys care about what's happening in your world, because it's probably an intense day or an emotional day. His girlfriend took the day off work, so all those things. I mean, it's all kind of unloading on you, and then you know that those guys around, your teammates, are not just your teammates. They care about your what's going on in your life for these stressful times. So that is nice there. What did you say? There was 5 guys over there?
Yeah, something like that. And I love when you asked him about the no trade clause. He said he got one for 15 minutes. He signed at 2:45. It is after 3 o'clock now. That means wheeling and dealing is done, but doesn't mean that everything has been processed by the National Hockey League, or if you're north of the border, processed by the National Hockey League yet. And when they do that, then everything goes through, and then they get reported. So there still could be some deals that are trickling out here and there. You talk about the stressful day. You were traded a couple of times, and not right at this deadline, but there was one time San Jose traded you at a deadline, and that was a deadline before an Olympic break. So
yes.
there was a drop dead date you had to make. There was a freeze over the Olympic break, so you had to make any deals before a certain time. You got traded at that time, so you've experienced this somewhat in your career. What is this day like? And maybe you didn't see that freeze date as the deadline like today. Maybe you didn't realize it was going on until you got the call.
No, I knew. I knew that I was going to be traded, and it was an emotional day because I knew the teams that were going to be involved. I knew who it was down to, and when you get traded, it's you walk out that door and that door closes behind you. I mean, and you're all in. When you're in an organization, you're all in. Your family, your friends, your relatives, they're all wearing those colors. So for me, it was in San Jose when I left there. I was moving on to New York with the Rangers, and I just remember saying goodbye to everyone and taking that gear, and you get to the new place. You're sad to be leaving those relationships and those bonds but you're excited for the new door that opens. And when you put the family dynamic in there, you have your kids and your wife, and your wife is pregnant, and it just, there's a lot of different things. So you also feel bad for her in the sense that she's got to make new friends, she's got to live in a new place. All those places that are familiar on a daily basis are now changing. So, but it's exciting. It's part of pro sports, and you need to have great people around you. And a lot of these people that are in these situations do. But it's a very exciting day, and I think the biggest. It's emotional, and it can be overwhelming. But once it's done, once that 3 o'clock day is passed, or time has passed, you're kind of relieved. And I know the guys now all across North America that are looking at those TVs and waiting for those tickers to go by and see who. There's friends, there's former teammates, there's current teammates. Where do I fit in on the depth chart? What if they get another forward, then I'm not going to play? What if they get 2 more defensemen and I'm a defenseman? I'm not going to play. So where is this team going? And you really get a good indication from the inside, because you have no conversations with the general manager throughout the year. But where are we going as an organization directionally? And I think all those indications all day. It's an exciting day for the players, for the wives, for the families, and all levels. And you look at Jordan Leopold, who's been really, I just think that's a fantastic story, that he goes back to Minnesota, and especially after his daughter Jordan pleading for him to get there. I mean, that's a cherry on top of the day, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Jarmo Kekalainen will meet with the media. Before he does that, he will stop by and talk with us. That could happen at any time now. It's 3:17. So sometime between now and 3:30, we expect him to come in and have a few words with us. There are surprising trades, and we can talk about how the Metropolitan Division has changed, but this one just came through, and this really surprises me. First of all, there's two trades that can go hand in hand. Yesterday, the Blue Jackets were in Pittsburgh playing against the Penguins, and Robert Bortuzzo and Simone Dupré both played in that game on defense for the Pittsburgh Penguins. These two guys are guys that, especially Dupré, he was a highly touted prospect. They were unhappy with him under Dan Bylsma, but now with Mike Johnston coming in there, they've been okay, you know. They've been happy with him. Bortuzzo, a big, rugged guy. They traded them both today.
I know.
They traded both of them.
Well, Dupré, too, he got Trop ran him pretty good. Remember last night he left
Yes.
with blood on his visor.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So he goes where? Where did
No,
Dupré go?
well, here's the deal. Bortuzzo goes to St. Louis for Ian Cole. So that one, I don't know how that works out. Bortuzzo's a more physical guy than Ian Cole. Jim Rutherford, the GM there, obviously was looking for something else. So they get Ian Cole there.
I thought they wanted to be rugged, though. That was
Yeah,
part of their lacking
that's all
of
they've
last
said.
year.
That's
He's a
right.
big
They needed
defenseman,
more
so
bottom six. They needed to be more rough on the
Cole
back
is a
end.
more of a finesse, good skating defenseman.
And don't think that might not have something to do with Christian Ehrhoff not playing
Oh,
yesterday,
that's right,
too.
that's right.
Because Christian Ehrhoff had been injured. He played against Washington on Wednesday. He didn't play yesterday against the Blue Jackets, and they were saying, well, we want to give him a little bit more rest. He had 5 days in between games,
That's right.
and he played. So how much more rest do you mean? That could be an That should be could be an insurance
Yeah, I
policy
agree with
there.
that.
But now Simone Dupré goes to the Anaheim Ducks, and this is what kills me. Ben Lovejoy, who left the Penguins,
That's right.
they bring him back to play with the Penguins. And when he was there last time around, he was a guy that was playing forward sometimes because they couldn't find room for him on the blue line.
So he's that depth guy, and I think in the playoffs, and he has size.
Yes, he
so
does.
he might,
and he's tough.
He's pretty tough. So he fills in that Bortuzzo role. So when they made that move, they got Cole, but now they've replaced Bortuzzo with Lovejoy. So there's been some jockeying as far as tweaking has gone on with some of these teams in the East, and especially the Metropolitan Division. And you see a team like that to make those moves. They're all offsetting and filling in holes that they've needed. And how about the scouts we've seen around the building? Pittsburgh's been around a lot, and there's been a number of scouts watching. A lot of hard work goes into all these decisions, and I'd say a tremendous amount of phone calls, especially in Pittsburgh where they have the GM and then 3 assistant GMs all helping each other.
How do they all get on the same page? I don't know, but they do
Hard work.
somehow. But the other thing that tells me about this trade for Pittsburgh is they really like Derek Pouliot, and we saw him score a goal.
That's right. Yeah, he was a defenseman up on the play, on the power play actually, and he's a prospect that they're very high on.
All right. Are you surprised at all today that with the Blue Jackets, if these are the two things, the only things that come out of today, does it surprise you at all?
Well, no. I mean, there's a couple ways to look at it. I feel that the Blue Jackets are very sound and confident with where they're at. They haven't played with the full roster all year. Let's go back to the Clarkson deal for Horton. I mean, this was just a couple days ago. I think that's a big deal. That was kind of hanging over the heads of the Blue Jackets. Will Horton ever play again? Probably not, is the word. But they've replaced that salary they were paying with a player. And David Clarkson fits into this roster nicely, I think. There's an identity here, and I think that part of that whole thing is those guys that can play with some grit, some edge, and they know what they are here in Columbus, Ohio, as far as identity. So obviously they were probably planning bigger things, but who knows how it went down. We'll ask Yarmo when he gets here. I don't know how much he'll let us know, but you know what I mean? Like there's a game plan in place, and there's a game plan as to how this team's going to be and how this team's going to look when they're healthy. And to do some things today that would take you off the path of what they're trying to do, I think that is the biggest challenge for a team like this.
Yeah, and that could be a mistake that teams can fall into sometimes.
I agree with that.
Yeah, they can make the mistake of saying, hey, we have to do this right now, and you look back in 6 months and you go, boy, I wish we hadn't have done that, and I wish we still had that guy. You're talking about that David Clarkson trade. Yarmo did meet with the media just before a game the other night, and here's some of the comments he made about David Clarkson and how he fits in here.
Well, David Clarkson was a 30-goal scorer in his best year in New Jersey. Whether he can get back to that, nobody has that crystal ball. But he's been to the Stanley Cup Finals. He's played for a winner in New Jersey for many years, and he's a character player. He's a guy that competes hard, and he's a heart and soul type of player, and that's why we're excited to have David. and he'll fit our needs and our group perfectly. I remember watching David Clarkson in Kitchener, and that's a long time ago, obviously. But like I said, he scored 30 goals for the New Jersey Devils, and has had many successful years with that organization. And things didn't work out for him in Toronto, and that happens for a lot of different players in this league, and a lot of very good players too, where they have some off years or down years. It's not a fit, and you can look at the recent past of our club. I'm not going to name any names. I'm sure you guys can think of it. It has happened to some very good players where they can not be successful in that organization, go somewhere else and have great success. That's hockey. That's sports.
So that's Jarmo Kekalainen talking right after the trade that sent the injured Nathan Horton to Toronto in exchange for David Clarkson. David's played a couple of games now, Jody, and he hasn't gotten a goal yet. I think people hope that he comes in and he scores 2 or 3 goals in his first 2 games. I think
they didn't get any of the first game, New Jersey Devils.
That's right. Nobody got one. That's right.
And then last game, a good indicator is opportunities, and he's had a couple opportunities. I like how he plays the game. He goes to the net, and him and Hartnell are very close, and I mean they're almost identical, except they shoot different ways, but they're like second effort guys. They'll try to make that first play, and if it doesn't work, they're always there to correct it. If it doesn't go through the stick, or if a player bumps them off the puck, they'll be quick to close the space and bump them off the puck. So I like the way they play. They've got an edge. They're in your face. They won't back down from anyone, and they can score goals. I mean, both those guys have scored 30 goals in the National Hockey League. So I like that dynamic. I know when we mentioned those guys last night playing together in Pittsburgh, the reaction from assistant coach Gary Agnew was, "Oh, really?" It kind of brings that. It really grabs your attention. So and that's the way the Blue Jackets are. They're the team that when you're finished playing them, the comments are they're hard to play against. And I think as a fan and as an organization and as a group of players in that room, that's what you want to be. You want to be hard to play against, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah, and he showed something else last night, did David Clarkson, that he can step in and take faceoffs when he needs to as well, because he was playing on the line with Artem Anisimov, who can't take draws, and it was his job all night, and I thought he did a pretty good job.
You know what he did a lot? He tied him up, which was a good idea. A smart player, and he told his wingers, get in here and help. I'm just going to try to use my strength and tie up the stick. He did that a few times, and that's good. They have to do that by committee, with Anisimov not being able to take those faceoffs. And Hartnell, I think both Hartnell and Clarkson are about 30% on the year in faceoffs.
So if you look around the Metropolitan Division, you can see the haves and the have-nots, or who thinks that they are the haves and the ones that think that they are the have-nots. And you mentioned earlier the Braden Coburn deal that Philadelphia made overnight with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Coburn going to Tampa. Tampa gave up a first-round pick in this deal, but with some of the moves that the Philadelphia Flyers have made, you can see where Ron Hextall is staying the course. And I know one thing that he has said throughout the season is we're not getting rid of young guys to get older guys. We're going to stay with our young guys. We're going to let them learn. So they're one of those teams on the bubble hoping to make the playoffs, but you made a good point to me before we started this show. It's not about making the playoffs this year. And I think Ron Hextall is smart enough to know that getting into the playoffs and getting bumped out in the first round might not be exactly the way to go. When you get in, you want to be able to make a run.
Exactly. It's a Stanley Cup. And that's the way these teams, he comes from L.A. that built from draft picks, acquisitions at the deadline that made sense, but it was when the team was right, the organization was right. And that's what you're seeing in the Eastern Conference right now. You're seeing a lot of teams that think this is our group. This is the time that we're going to take a run at this. And Tampa Bay, New York, Washington, Pittsburgh, these teams are now saying, okay, how long are we going to have this group together? When are they going to get a little older? And they look at teams like LA that is that team starting to fall apart a little bit? So all these dynamics come into play. And you look at the Penguins, or you were talking about, but I want to talk about the Penguins too, getting Winnick and Cole. Winnick, I mean, that guy.
Yeah, we forgot Daniel Winnick a couple of days ago.
I mean, that nice little acquisitions and quiet acquisitions, and it's throughout the Metropolitan Division. So some good movement, a lot of minor stuff, but at the same time, a lot of things that you can tell what these organizations are trying to do.
Flyers also got Radko Gudas in that trade with the Tampa Bay Lightning, which kind of fits that Philly mold as far as a physical defenseman. Mm-hmm. That's what he's trying to be, is a physical, gritty, back-end guy. So they do get him in that deal as well. without question, the Carolina Hurricanes, they know who they are and what they need to do to get to where they eventually want to be. They've gotten rid of a lot of guys. Yuri Tolusti, they shipped off. Andre Sekera, they shipped off to L.A. the other day. Tim Gleason, they sent to the Washington Capitals.
And you talk about the Flyers. Let's go back to they got rid of Colburn and Timonen.
Yep.
I mean, Timonen didn't play all year. He had blood clots, got his health back. He's ready to play. He's in Chicago. They moved him to have that playoff run. And you think of Ron Hextall, very similar to Jarmo Kekalainen here today. I'm sure the birds are circling. They want to try to pick something off the pile. You know, Flyers are 6 point back, and they have a lot of young, talented players that a lot of them are underachieving. In our case, a lot of injuries. So, you know, you have to tip your hat to those guys to be able to stand pat with their plan, especially in Philly, because a lot of the times it's let's go for the shiny new car. Let's get these guys out of here. We got to change this. Why aren't we doing this? Why are the Rangers doing so well? So all those things play into factor. But you said it earlier. It is a day where a lot of mistakes could be made.
Yeah, but I still think that they're looking at, not right now, but they're looking at the future in Philadelphia. Same in Carolina. They ship off Yuri Tolusti, Andre Sekera, Tim Gleason. They pick up some picks, and they get Jack Hillen, who is a defenseman from the Washington Capitals, in exchange for Tim Gleason. For the Capitals, let's just go there because of that trade. The Capitals are trying to fortify right now. They're trying to get better. They get Gleason. They get Curtis Glencross, the former Blue Jacket from the Calgary Flames. You know, they give up? They give up Jack Hillen and some draft picks in exchange.
Gleason, you think about him, big body, plays big minutes. He can shut down. He's physical, block shots. You get players that get you to the playoffs, but then there's players that get you through the playoffs. And it's a guy like Gleason that can do it. Curtis Glencross is a guy that was here, didn't play much, went to Calgary, close to his hometown. He's a Cowboy from just north of there. And really fits in well and a big part of the organization. But with Bob Hartley, doesn't fit in very well, doesn't fit in with the game plan. Calgary's having success. He's a free agent at the end of the year. He finds himself on the outside, but goes with Ovechkin, Backstrom, and the Washington Capitals. And I think he's a nice pickup. He's a complimentary player on the second line. I see him fit there in Washington. So all those little tweaks. And then you go to the Rangers. I mean, Yandel.
Is there any team more than the New York Rangers that are saying, guess what, we're going back to the Stanley Cup final and we're going to try to steamroll everybody in the East, just by the moves they've done in the last 2 days?
Yeah, I mean, it's a statement. It's a statement, and I think they love where they're at. If you look at their decor, I thought they were pretty sound in the defensive position already. And Dan Boyle now is your number 6 defenseman. Yandel, I don't know where he fits in there, but he's got that offensive touch. He's a great guy in the room.
I'd say pretty high. He's gonna fit in pretty high.
He's leading the team in points there, yeah. And then you have they picked up Shepard, Klingberg, role guys that can again complement you in the playoffs when and they're so fresh off going to the Stanley Cup Finals. They did a good job last year. They're trying to re-energize that, redo that again, but take the next step and win the cup. So you see what they're trying to do, and that's one of the teams that is now sensing what they have and saying, hey, we've waited a long time to get to the finals and have a group like we have now, a special group. They signed Zuccarello the other day. That was a big question mark whether he was going to be a part of it, what's going to happen, and just they feel like, or they look like they feel pretty confident and solid with their team.
Let's talk about Matt Zuccarello for just a moment, because Glenn Sather seems to have this way of taking negotiations and then putting them in the public right when it's time. It's going to be crunch time. You're either going to keep the guy or the guy is out. We saw that last year with Ryan Callahan. Basically came out and he said, too much money, we're not going to pay it. Either they come down on their demands or we have to ship them out. They didn't move, they shipped them to Tampa. This year, just a couple of days ago, Matt Zuccarello, they said, well, too much money. We can't afford that, what he wants. This time it goes the other way. Zuccarello comes back and agrees to the terms. They come to a deal so that he stays there. But that's a savvy veteran general manager. He knows right when to push that button.
He sure does. And he gave up some prospects. Johnny Moore. We know Johnny Moore here in Columbus. We love him. Great skater, a good player.
But good for him. No, good for him, because he does get a chance to go to Arizona. He'll log a lot of minutes in Arizona, especially with Keith Yandel being out of there now, I think.
That's right.
He does have the offensive upside, no question about that. But, yeah, he just did. Again, sometimes guys don't fit in on certain teams, and that was him in New York.
That was him, and that Duclair, who was a kid who really emerged. He went to the World Juniors. He started the year with the Rangers. Promising prospect. And if you look at Phoenix, they're in a rebuild, obviously. They've got some great draft picks, but picks up Duclair. who played with Max Domi in the gold medal world. It was a World Junior Championship, and they're trying to create stuff that's already trying to bring together things that are already there. And John Moore, I think that's a fantastic pickup.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. There's no question about that. Two more teams here in the Metropolitan Division we'll talk about. The New Jersey Devils almost standing pat today. They sent Jaromir Jagr to Florida last week, and they send Marek Zidlitsky today to Detroit. He's now a member of the Red Wings. They get some picks back for that. In the meantime, the New York Islanders. We haven't even talked about the Islanders.
That's right.
The Islanders are the team on top of the division. They're trying to get to the top of the conference. They did make some moves today. Some big, well, I don't know if I can even say some big, some not. To me, they're tweaking. They wanted to get a better backup goaltender. Chad Johnson was there as a backup goaltender. They ship him to Buffalo. Michael Neuwirth, who just was here the other night and made 45 saves against the Blue Jackets, he goes to Long Island, and he is now going to back up Yaroslav Halak there. So they feel that they strengthened the goaltending position if something were to happen to Yaroslav Halak. They also get Tyler Kennedy from the San Jose Sharks for a third-round conditional pick. Tyler Kennedy spent a lot of time in the division playing in Pittsburgh, went out to San Jose. He hasn't been the same player in San Jose than he was in Pittsburgh, but he does give you experience. He's an NHL player. He has playoff experience, and he's well, basically what he is, third or fourth line guy with a bit of grit.
Tyler Kennedy, love that. So yeah, he's a guy that knows how to win, and San Jose does this every year. They try to find those guys, those glue guys. He didn't fit in there out in San Jose, but Long Island, and they already have Clutterbuck and Martin, who are just leading in throwing in the hits category every year. These guys are 1 and 2, so they're now battling each other. So the hits are through the roof in Long Island with those two. But you add Tyler Kennedy, who's not afraid to do that too, and yeah, that's a nice little dynamic in Long Island. And I see a couple trades are still filtering in here. It looks like Jordan Caron is going to Colorado for Max Talbot. That's an interesting trade. Max Talbot is similar to Tyler Kennedy.
Yep.
Jordan Caron was in Boston with the Bruins, so that means Talbot is headed that way, and a team that really has been quiet too. If you look at what they've been speculated to do at the deadline, but they pick up Talbot, who's one of those guys, won a Stanley Cup in Pittsburgh, role player, but knows his role and does it well. He can win faceoffs, block shots, and he's got some speed. So you see a guy like that move that way. That's interesting. I'm actually surprised Boston didn't do more, because, boy, are they struggling when you look at the big picture and where they're going. The coach's position is on the line. There's talks of all management changes there, but I don't know. Maybe they still have a few more to trickle in. But that one is the last one I've seen as the deadline has passed, and now it's been 35 minutes since the official 3 o'clock deadline.
Aaron Portzline of the Columbus Dispatch also tweeting that Mark Letestu is staying put, but there's no extension close. Both sides have agreed to continue working on an extension because he wants to stay, and that's for sure. He does want to stay here.
Yeah, that's good.
No doubt. And good character guy.
We love what he brings to the team.
Absolutely.
And Todd Richards had him in the minor leagues, and I think guys on his team really respect him as a player, as a person, for what he brings to the rink every day, practice and games. And in games, I mean, penalty kill, he's smart. You look at what he brings to a young guy like Wenberg, smart, and I think these young guys need a guy like Mark Letestu around.
Yeah, he was even playing the point on the power play the other day. Just waiting to hear. There's speculation going on right now. It's confirmed.
We confirm it.
James Wisniewski to the Anaheim Ducks. That is confirmed. For Carlson, Bork, and a second in 2015.
Wow. Rene Bork was just on waivers today. That's interesting. No one picked him up. He gets put in a trade. James Wisniewski to the Anaheim Ducks is what we're seeing here. So that James was there early in his career. I know that. And there's a lot of speculation about him. He took a shot in the foot too last night, so there was a little bit of holding your breath this morning. Remember, he was healthy scratched earlier this week when we played. I think it was the Ranger game. He was scratched, wasn't he?
Yes, he was scratched on Sunday in New York against the Rangers. That's right.
Came back and played a couple, and looks like that is a piece that has been talked about. And there it is. There it is. The official Twitter account of the Columbus Blue Jackets, William Karlsson, Rene Bourque, and a second-round pick in 2015 for James Wisniewski.
Well, this is...
How do you feel about that?
I don't know. This is kind of a tough one, to be honest with you. James Wisniewski came here at a time several years ago where the Blue Jackets very much needed a player like James Wisniewski. They needed an offensive defenseman. They, people will say that, well, Columbus overpaid to get James Wisniewski, and at the time, that's exactly what had to be done. And they brought him in. I think he has been, despite the fact that people seem to have very strong feelings on James Wisniewski, one way or the other, but I think James has been a very good. I think he's been a good player for this team over the course of the years. I think James has been a good ambassador for Columbus and for this franchise and for this program throughout. He's a nice guy. He can be quirky at times, but we like that.
Oh, yeah.
We like to have a good time.
Love him.
Yeah, we love to have a good time with James Wisniewski. But for him, from the moment it came out about the healthy scratch, when he got healthy scratch, and then it came out that they had asked him for the list that he had of teams that he would not be traded to. Usually where there's smoke, there's fire. Whether or not you can do anything with a fire is, what remains to be seen. Obviously, the Blue Jackets did do something with it. All I'm going to say is, listen, and I say this all the time, if you're going to deal somebody, you may not like it as a fan, we might not like it, whatever, but it's always looking at that bigger picture of guys that you can bring in to make your team better. And that's what the job of the front office is here, is to make it better. So what on the surface seems like, well, why would they do that? Why that particular guy? There's a reason for it, and they're feeling that that kind of a move is going to make this team better. Now, here we go from where there were 9 defensemen to where they were down to 6 defensemen. Jordan Leopold was dealt earlier to Minnesota. Now James Wisniewski gets dealt. But this is all part of the process, and for a team that is not where they want to be, that is not in the playoff picture right now, and looking to get better, as you said, Rene Bourque is a pretty good player.
Let's go back to James Wisniewski. Yeah. He had to submit a list of teams he would go to, so that was a little bit of a hitch in this. Not sure if he had to clear something up for this to happen, but he had a no-move, a limited no-move. He gets moved here today back to his wife is actually from the Anaheim area, so I'm sure she's excited to get back there. That's a big deal for James Wisniewski. He's got 2 years left on his contract after this year. He had to submit that list. He was asked that. I think that kind of surprised him. That was less than a week ago. It might have been a week ago yesterday. And it's one of those things that this is part of the game. When you're on a team that is losing, he's not where they want him to be, I guess. But you said it right, Bob. He's been a great ambassador in the city. He's involved. I know he's involved in Dublin. He loves the area. And I'm sure his teammates are going to miss him. Whenever you ask any of his teammates about him, they go on about him. So he's been a part of this organization for a few years now. But good luck to James. He's going to an Anaheim Duck team who is filled with talent and skill, and they're looking to make a run here. So right-handed shot defenseman. You thought maybe when they picked up, who'd they pick up earlier?
Simone
Dupre from Pittsburgh, that would nullify something like this. But James Wisniewski with that big right-handed shot off to Anaheim, and Rene Bourque you asked me about. I've always liked this guy. He's a big guy. He can skate. I'm not sure if it was a transaction where you see some deals where you have to take salary back.
No, and I was just going to tell you, Pierre LeBrun of TSN is reporting no salary retained in the Wisniewski trade, which again to me
that's a big contract.
That's a key. That's a key for the Blue Jackets to not have to keep any of that salary. The contract's totally off your books. The guy's gone, the contract's off your books. And the reason that's important is you want that money to work on your own cap.
And that might be something else about this transaction. We talked about James Wisniewski, the player and the person. Well, what about the contract? I mean, you got to factor in with the salary cap and the way that these are structured with these teams. It really limits a lot of teams. And a lot of teams today are stuck because they don't have that room to move stuff. Well, I think that this relief maybe from the contract is part of it. I don't know, but you hear it on other teams, and that is one of the bigger contracts on the books for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, absolutely. So James Wisniewski traded to the Anaheim Ducks, and Rene Bourque and William Karlsson coming back the other way, along with a second-round pick in 2015. Again, those picks, second-round pick, that second round is supposed to be valuable this summer.
Well, Coburn went for, what was it Coburn went? He went for a first, a third, and Gudas to Tampa, and I thought that, I mean, that's first-round pick's a big deal this year, but you got a second-round pick here, and it's the same thing. Petrie from Edmonton, he got traded today, and he went for a second and a conditional fifth. So, these things that are happening, these second-round picks are are coveted, and especially Jarmo. I mean, Jarmo Kekalainen started his days as a scout, first a player, then a scout, and has worked his way up. So he appreciates draft picks probably more than a lot of people, and he understands the draft system more than you and I ever will. But to see the value that he puts in these picks, getting that 5th pick back from Leopold, getting a 2nd-round pick for Wisniewski, plus Rene Bourque, Carlson, and then the salary thing off the books. You know, he's doing some nice things here, quietly doing some nice things, locking up Cam Atkinson to a 3-year deal. It's just a statement to Cam and the group that they have here that we'll be here to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's well put. Very quietly doing things, and this is a team that, unlike the Arizona Coyotes, where it's almost a fire sale going on in Arizona, the Blue Jackets knew that they were not going to be that team. They're not making moves for the sake of making moves. They're not making moves because they're building for 3 years down the road. They're building for 3 years down the road, but they're also building with the thought process that, hey, last year we were just in the playoffs.
Right.
This team has been so injured this year, and as you said earlier, they haven't seen this team play together. You haven't seen your team play all year, but they feel, I would imagine, that they feel well enough that going into next year, they want to be next year's New York Islanders. I think that's what the focus and the mindset should be. So when you're making these deals, yeah, you're looking down the road, but you're also looking to, okay, at the start of next year, where can we get better? Where can we fortify a little bit? And that's what these deals are about.
Well, the next step is to come into camp talking about the Stanley Cup. I mean, it's not talking about making the playoffs. And good organizations have that, you know, they're planning for the 1st, 2nd, 3rd round. And I think that with stability in injuries, first of all, and having a good regular season, it's nice to feel good about yourself in the regular season. But when you can get in and do some damage in the Stanley Cup playoffs, then you've got some heavy presences, and I still go back to what this team, this young group has been through. And I mean young. This is a young team with a fantastic goalie and some good defensemen coming up. If I'm a fan, a season ticket holder, and I'm sitting at home waiting to see what the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to do, and I'm probably looking for some fireworks, some excitement. If I see a couple moves and a couple signings and hear that a couple of the key players are going to be staying here, it shows me that there's confidence in what they're doing and what they're saying. They actually mean what they're saying, and it's just that they're going to stand pat and keep this group. So it's a good time to be a Blue Jackets player and part of the organization and a fan.
Well, with that trade just really being announced, Jarmo Kekalainen, originally he was going to talk at 3:30 to the media. He's pushed that back, and we expect to have him here on set before he does talk to the media. So
maybe he's got more on the go.
Yeah, you never know, and that's why you start to push these things back. Maybe that was the last one. Maybe it's not. You know, you can't ever be sure until the man walks in the room.
Fireworks,
right?
Yeah.
You never know.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He does believe in his core. And you know something else is when you have losing seasons or losing situations, and he said this in the past, you learn what you have through times of adversity. And I'm sure it's people in the hockey ops who were up in the office, how they deal with these situations. It's trainers, it's players, it's coaches. So all those things are you really get a different sense, because when you're winning, and I remember that was one of the problems when I was in San Jose, was we would win and win games we weren't supposed to win, and you could see the problem, but it was masked with the win, and you kind of turn the page on that and be like, oh, we're good, we won. And this is in the regular season, and that's when you get in the playoffs, those problems still exist. But now, when the team is in a 7-game series with you, they can hone in on your weaknesses and really pick you apart. So you see this I'm not saying it's great to have a losing season, but through the injuries, they've ended up where they're at right now. And I think through this adversity, he's probably learned a lot about his group.
Yeah, and that's a very good point that you're making. So let me follow up by asking you this. Last year, the Blue Jackets were that team. They were winning games. They didn't have any business winning. They were getting on streaks and rolls to where you would say, how did that happen? And you're right. It masks a lot of the warts, as you like to say. But in this season, in those same games, they haven't been able to come up with those wins. They haven't been able to get over the hump. Yes, there have been a ton of injuries, but even in games where it looked like the Buffalo game last week is a prime example. I thought that game was still there to win 5-4 at some point, and they just never could get over the top. Yes, Michael Neuwirth played very well in that game and all of that stuff, but it was a bad start, which is a continual problem, and then getting over that hump. So you kind of do see it for what it is right now, and then now you can assess it much better.
I agree, and we talk about this team all the time. There's no captain. It's win by committee. It's lead by committee. It's all together, and it's everyone has got a very crucial role. And this team has to play to their identity. And when you're missing a part of it or two, things are set back. Or some guy is an off game. You're not going to give you a chance to win. Now, look, if you go back to December, this team, the Columbus Blue Jackets, had one of the top power plays in the National Hockey League.
It was number one at one point.
So if you're walking in a Nationwide arena or you got this team coming in your building, what do you think they're talking about in the other room? The goaltending and the power play.
That's right.
Bobrovsky is outstanding. The team works hard, but the power play is top in the league. We have got to watch this, break it down, spend some more time on it. And they really got through December on their goaltending and the power play. It was outstanding. And so then you see the setback because that one dimension, and that's only because you're having the players out of the lineup, that one dimension that was working for them gets honed in on, and now it's set back, and now you're not winning those tight games, and especially in this part of the year. It's that back part of this season. Teams aren't giving up many scoring chances. Things are tight, and that's when you have to have that extra push. And when you don't have healthy bodies, or you do, you get a guy back. If I get you back off the shelf and it's been a week, you're still not right. You're still not. It's great to have you back, Bob, but there's still. I know the real Bob is still about 3 weeks or 2 weeks away, let's say. So that's all spiraled this year. But listen, this is a big indication for this organization today and what they've done so far.
Yeah, absolutely. How much of this do you think has to do with Cody Golubev being able to play every day, getting a chance to show what he can do on a nightly basis? Yes, because Cody Golubev is a right-handed shot. There was a lot of speculation earlier this year that he wouldn't clear waivers if they tried to send him down.
That's why they've kept him,
so
right?
They would have to trade him. Yeah, and for him, and as I'm asking you this question, I'm just going back in my mind the last couple of days and thinking, Cody Golubev, when have I've hardly noticed him. And again, that's a compliment. Is he the offensive threat that James Wisniewski is? No, he's not. But solid, right-handed shot on the blue line. Do you think this could have factored in?
I absolutely. Why not? And they were obviously high on Cody Golubev, not to send him through waivers, not to even consider the risk of putting him down and getting him picked off on waivers. Now he did incur an injury this year, which kept him around, and that's when the 9D were around. He took him a while to get back in the lineup. But I agree with you. He's surprised me. He's got more of an edge to his game than I thought. He could shoot the puck. He's smart on the puck. And he can skate, and he's not afraid to battle a little bit. So maybe so, Bob. I think that's part of this whole process is when you get to see those extra players or other players play, you really get to see what you have.
Yeah, because that's one thing now. The obvious question would be, how do you replace James Wisniewski on that blue line? Who steps up, who steps in? Dalton Proud is another guy. He finally returned from his injury over the weekend here, and there were a lot of teams. I don't know how many people you talked to, but I talked to a lot of people that said, boy, that Dalton Proud, they like him. They like him for his size. They liked him for his ruggedness. He's still here, well, as far as we know. We should
10-4. I don't know.
No, you never know. Hope it's good. But again, these young guys, keeping these young guys intact, part of the organization, let them grow.
Yeah, and then Dalton Proud's a guy that's been here through these good times and these tough times. And, he had a tough time at the beginning of the year getting in the lineup, earning those minutes. He was in and out, inconsistently a part of the team. And then they had to play him with all the injuries. And, boy, did he blossom. He got to the point in his game where he didn't have to worry about that little mistake, that single mistake, that one play that would cost him ice time. He was continually thrown on the ice. Didn't matter if he made the mistake. And, I think that really helped his confidence. He's been in and out since then. Did grab that injury the other day, but he's just that physical player, and you have to have different kinds of players. I look at Savard and Johnson. They're like Clydesdales. You put Prout in that category, and then you have Golubev out there with Tootin, and Connaughton's on the shelf right now. But there's a lot of good things, and I like it.
I forgot about Kevin. When Kevin's able to come back in, then there's another.
When they're injured,
yeah. You just absolutely. That's why they traded Nathan Horton. I said, "Who was that?" Oh, yes, I forgot. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But as you look at it, I asked you this 20 minutes ago, and then there was a trade, so maybe I shouldn't say it. As you look at it right now, let me ask you this from the. Let me ask you about taking James Wisniewski out of the dressing room. As you mentioned, everybody loves him. They liked having him around. So now that guy's not there. What's the feeling from everybody else in the group? What's the message that they should get out of that, or is there a message?
I'm not sure. We'll have to ask Yarmo about that whole deal, and if it was a financial deal, if it was a performance-based deal. I mean, I don't know. It's obviously he was fine last year here when the team had some success. And maybe it was something that they never thought they'd be able to move that contract. I don't know. Sometimes you get in that situation. But James has played well enough this year that there's been interest. And who knows? Maybe this is one of the times that, you know, when you have the interest, you get the chance to make that move and make that happen.
All right. Well, I can quit asking you questions.
Yes, thank
because Jarmo is making his way
I have
in
all the answers.
to join us. I know you do. I know you do. So we will bump down just a little bit there, and we'll let Jarmo get into the shot, if you don't mind. As we'll bring him over here.
Welcome, Jarmo.
Thank you, thank you.
Another busy day for you today, Jarmo.
Yeah.
And, there, you can take
fairly
you can
busy.
take that. I see you have your notes for your press
The
gathering.
deadline is passed.
Yeah, it does. Obviously a pretty busy day in the last couple of days, but we're pleased with the results and it fits into our long-term plans.
The deals that you made today, let's just start at the top. Jordan Leopold, you send him to Minnesota. You get back that 5th-round pick that you gave up to get him. When you were looking to make a deal for him, were you trying to do something that worked for him by sending him back home to Minnesota, or did it just work out that way?
Well, he's been a great pro for us. He's done everything we've asked him to do. He hasn't been in the lineup a lot, and like I said, just a great pro, experienced guy who did all the right things. So we wanted to do the right thing too. We got what we invested in him, the 5th-round pick, and he gets to go home. So it's a win-win situation for both sides.
Justin Falk comes over in that deal too. I know he's been up and down between the NHL and the AHL. Do you know what his situation is going to be, how you'll use him? Will it be here? Will it be in Springfield?
No, he'll be here. Right now we're down to 6 defensemen, so with all the injuries that we have, Kevin Connaughton's out for a while, and Jameson Wisniewski got traded to Anaheim, so we need Justin Falk here right now.
When you trade Wisniewski like that, was that something that it seemed to come down to the wire by the way we saw it? Is that something that was going on the last couple of days, or was this just something that developed late in the day?
We talked about it before. This was something that fit into our long-term plans, something that we needed to do with our group. There's always different elements going into every deal. There's salary cap issues, there's budget issues, and we have some very good young defensemen emerging in Ryan Murray, David Savard, Kevin Connaughton, into similar roles with James Wisniewski was on our team, and it all came together at the end and makes a lot of sense for us. We get a great young prospect in William Karlsson. We get another 2nd-round pick. Now we got 3 seconds in one of the best drafts in the recent history. We got a first, 3 seconds, and 2/3 now. So I think we're well set for June and into the future.
Are you pleased overall with the day and how it unfolded?
Yes, we're pleased. We accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. We got Cam Atkinson signed. That was a positive thing for us, obviously, and like I said, we're looking to build a championship team. So we're looking into the future, the big picture. We've always talked about it. We said we weren't looking to do a garage sale where we're just unloading people. Everything had to happen with the big picture in mind, and that's what we did.
Cam Atkinson, was it always in your mind that you were going to sign him? There have been so many rumors going on for the last couple of weeks about him getting dealt. Was it always your intention to keep him here, which you ultimately ended up doing?
Yeah, we had talked about extending him for a while, and we like Cam a lot. But also, this is a business, and once you get close to that unrestricted free agent status, you always have to make sure that you protect the franchise in the future by not letting assets walk into the free agency and not getting anything for him. Cam was a year away from that, so if he wasn't going to sign with us for a longer term, then we had to look at our options and make sure that we're protecting the franchise. So we weren't trying to trade Cam. We were listening to offers. I mean, Wayne Gretzky was traded. That's the line we use all the time. So you have to listen to people or teams that are interested in some of the players that might fall into that category, as I mentioned, potentially walking into the unrestricted free agency.
You know, I find it funny that you mentioned Kevin Connaughton moving into a role like James Wisniewski had. I mean, how different things become almost by accident. You pick up Kevin Connaughton on waivers because you needed a body at the time. You were able to pluck him. Now all of a sudden he becomes a pretty important part of your blue line. And Jody and I were talking about Cody Golubev. How much in seeing him play each and every day helps you in that decision too, to let a guy like James go somewhere else, and those two guys in particular, looking at them as guys that can kind of step up and fill that role?
Absolutely does. He's another right-handed defenseman, And as I mentioned, David Savard, he's been playing. He's probably been our most consistent defenseman this year, and he's taking power play minutes. He's now going to assume even a bigger role in our team, and maybe even more power play minutes. I'm not handing out power play minutes; that's a coach's job. But he's an emerging young defenseman that can grow and get better.
We saw a picture of the war room, and you guys were hunkered down in there earlier. Was there anything that happened earlier today, without getting too specific, that maybe changed the course of the plan today, or were you guys pretty steady, or surprised by anything that happened here today?
There's always a little curveball here and there with our business, and you know, some surprises. But I thought that we had our plan set, and I'm pleased the way we were able to execute them today.
Mark Letestu didn't get dealt, still here. You'll continue to talk with his agent about an extension?
Yeah, absolutely. We like Mark a lot. We appreciate and respect the job that he does, and we'll continue the dialogue.
And finally, just when it's all said and done, when you take what you've done in these past couple of days, the money that you've been able to move around, you know, the contracts you've moved, the contracts you've taken on, how happy are you with where you stand in the future in that aspect going ahead?
I think we're in the right place right now. We got some more center depth in this deal with Anaheim. I think we have to work on our defense depth for next year. We have some good prospects that we intend to sign. Our team's young, so we're going to have some young players improving again from this year to next year, and some important roles open for them. So, and financially, we're in the right place too, so that we can add the right pieces if we need to.
All right, well, that's the easy part. We'll let you go to the Wolves now and go talk to the rest of the media. Thank you. Jarmo, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll take that from you. Jarmo Kekalainen, Blue Jackets general manager, joining us here on this trade deadline edition of CBJin30. And so those are the moves that the Blue Jackets make today. Defenseman Jordan Leopold goes to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for a 5th-round pick and defenseman Justin Falk. Cam Atkinson signs a new 3-year contract extension. James Wisniewski gets moved to the Anaheim Ducks for Rene Bourque and William Karlsson and a 2nd-round pick in 2015. So, again, we didn't expect a blockbuster day. We get kind of a blockbuster day with the James Wisniewski trade, Jody, but now you know who the Columbus Blue Jackets are until the end of the season, until the trading opens up again. Yeah, until it becomes draft time and you see what happens from now until then. But right now, these are the Blue Jackets. You'll see a couple of new faces here, and again, guys that'll have opportunity.
And I think the importance of this whole interview and to see him sit down here is the content. You can tell that they have a game plan, and he thought they executed it well. That James Wisniewski deal was a big deal for him, it looks like. And I just like the tone from Jarmo Kekalainen, who's been busy. I mean, if you've seen him the last couple of days, he's got to be exhausted, because it's always on his mind. He probably had some offers that were probably tempting, but for him to sit down here and say that this is the course, I'm happy with what's going on, I like that for the Blue Jackets.
All right, let's look at what is really the core right now for the Blue Jackets, and we'll just start up front. Nick Foligno signed to a 6-year deal. Ryan Johansson got a new deal before the season. Scott Hartnell gets brought in with years left on his contract from the Philadelphia Flyers. Atkinson is now signed, sealed, and delivered. You had Brandon Dubinsky got a long-term contract. Up front, who am I forgetting about?
Bobrovsky?
Well, Sergei, of course, he got his contract extended. I was just trying to make sure I went one at a time there.
And Nisimov is still in a good spot, isn't he?
And yeah, no, he's still in a good spot. And on defense, you know, Wisniewski moves out, but as Jarmo said, Cody Golubev making impressions. Kevin Connauton, again, this is Kevin Connauton is the thing that just it kind of makes you smile, because you go into the season not even thinking about Kevin Connauton's not on your team. He may be on your radar if he becomes available at some point in time, but who would have said in October, you know what, we're going to get this Connauton guy from Dallas, and he's going to be so good for this team, we're going to ship James Wisniewski to Anaheim. Nobody would have said that.
No, and that's nice and good for Kevin Connauton. I mean, he got an opportunity here. They were very excited to get Kevin Connauton, I know that. So they knew what they were getting, a player with a lot of upside. But I don't think that they were expecting the upside to come so quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Although right now he is hurt, as Jarmo said.
Yeah, but
they have to wait for him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Fire.
There's no doubt. They got to wait for him to get back into the lineup. His shot is what they like the most.
His shot, his heads-up play, the way he fits in the room, really a solid guy. So, and you look at all these guys and what they bring on the ice, but I just love the chemistry in the group that they have here. Kevin Connauton seamlessly fits in that room. Almost has that Fedor Tootin laid-back demeanor to him, and I really enjoy him.
We got the presser if you want to throw it.
Yeah. Okay. We can send it to Jarmo in the press room, and and hear what other things he has to say. So let's just go to that right now.
With our scouting staff, Jordan Leopold was about doing the right thing for a guy that's been a great pro for us. Done everything we asked him to do the right way, and we gave up a 5th-round pick to St. Louis to get him here. We got our 5th back. We got Justin Falk to join our team the rest of the way this year, and Jordan Leopold gets to go home and join his family, and we thank him for everything that he did for the franchise. He was a great pro. Very pleased with the extension of Cam Atkinson today. That was in the works for a while, and you know, all these rumors are flying around about him getting traded. I guess those rumors start flying around when you're negotiating. You're not coming into terms with somebody, but it's the same process with everybody who's getting near that unrestricted free agency. It's about protecting the franchise and its future. If we just can't let players walk into the unrestricted free agency without getting anything for them at the stage that we're in with our club. So very pleased to have him under contract for the extended 3 years now, and you know, Cam's been a big part of our team, and he's a good player for us, and he's a great teammate. So very happy to have that done. Any questions?
Jarmo, what made James Wisniewski expendable?
I think the long-term plans for our defense. I think that we have some really good young defensemen emerging into the similar roles, or similar role that James Wisniewski filled with our team. James is a good player, very good player. Gets 50 points every year. He's very good in the power play, and was a big part of our team. We have Ryan Murray, who's in my mind one of the best defensemen in the league, young defensemen in the league. Emerging defenseman in the league, unfortunately been injured, as you all know, but I truly believe that he can be an elite defenseman in this league once he gets healthy and grows with age and experience. David Savard, I would say, is close to the most improved player on our team, and probably the most consistent defenseman on our team this year. Also taking on some power play responsibility this year. Now he can assume a little more. Obviously, that's coach's decision, but that's the way I see him emerging, is probably getting some more power play time with our team now that James is gone to Anaheim. Kevin Connaughton has really shown us his power play ability this year, and I think with added time in that role, will do wonders for him too. He's still a young defenseman who's going to grow and get better and improve, and I think he has the type of character that he really wants to improve as well. He works hard, and he's driven to get to the next level. We have obviously some prospects as well who we believe that can play a big role for us in the future. Mike Riley is having a great year in Minnesota, and he's a prospect that we believe in and can step into some big shoes with our organization. And we look forward to getting him signed.
Jarmo, you referenced how deep next year's draft is. You referenced the long-term vision when you talked about the Wisniewski deal. Is it fair to say then that the Blue Jackets are in rebuilding mode? Because just nothing you've said today talks about next year.
Absolutely not. I don't much like the rebuild word, to be honest with you. I think that we've always got the long-term and short-term picture in mind. I think that these emerging defensemen that I just mentioned, the 3 of them, are already very good NHL defensemen. They're going to be even better next year with a little bit more of a role in our team, added ice time, added power play duty, etc. So our defense, in my mind, looks very strong for next year. We need to add some depth, obviously, and we will. And our forward group, again, will be a year older. I'm seeing tremendous growth in Alexander Wenberg's play from the start of the year to now. I'm seeing tremendous growth in Mark O'Donnell's play from the beginning of the year to now. Kirby Reichel, even though he's not here right now, has taken big steps for us. So we have some very good young forwards. We added a very good young centerman centermen are hard to find in William Karlsson, and we have those picks now. Now we need to add some depth to our defense. Cody Golubev's shown us this year that he can be an NHLer full time. So I believe in our group right now, and we still have the off season to make some improvements in it. Sure, we took a big part out in James Wisniewski. I think that by comedy, these young players will be able to fill that role and that ice time that's left by James. And now we'll just have to make sure that in the off season we add some more depth.
With Cam Atkinson, are you saying you had contract extension talks with him and absolutely no trade talks concerning him with teams from around the league?
No, I didn't say that. But by saying that we always have to protect the franchise, if we can't come to terms with a player that might walk into the unrestricted free agency a year from now, we'll have to listen, obviously. We were never trying to trade. There were rumors about Cam Atkinson or Artem Anisimov. We weren't actively shopping them. We were listening to offers. You know, if it makes sense in that long-term picture, in the big picture that I'm talking about, sure. You know, we'll listen and see if we feel that would make our team better now and into the future, we'd consider it. But they're both 1 year away from unrestricted free agency. Now Cam has that 3-year extension. So that's what I was talking about.
Jarmo, you had said earlier this year that with all the injuries, you hadn't really had a chance to see the team healthy the way that you wanted to see the team. What made you at this point think, okay, I've seen enough, Wisniewski is now expendable, and I'm going to go with the younger guys?
Well, I've seen the young group of defensemen all year except for Ryan Murray, and I believe in Ryan Murray even though he's been hurt all year. And I've seen all the other parts in this. So we believe in our group that we have in hand right now moving into the future. And there's always different elements to every trade. There's contract numbers, there's budgets, there's salary cap issues on both sides of the deal. On our side, on their side, so all these things have to come together to make a deal, and to plan into the future. So that's how it all came together.
Jarmo, I saw you tweet the letter Jordan's daughter, Jordan. Did that tug at the heartstrings? When did you see that? By the way,
the deal was done already when I saw it, or you know, like. Almost simultaneously, I guess, but that's a touching letter. But you know, we wanted to do the right thing with Jordan Leopold. That's what we had talked about the whole time. We knew that his family was in Minnesota, and he was here alone, and the family visited a few times. So there is a human side, believe it or not, to our business too. So I think it's great that he can go home, join his family, and see that letter. It was pretty touching.
Jarmo, how much is the fact that Mark Letestu wasn't traded an indication that you think an extension with him is a very realistic possibility, and how close might you be right now with that?
I can't comment on that, but we like Mark, and we weren't just going to trade him to get another pick. We like him a lot, and we know that his family has a home here. He loves Columbus, and he's a great guy, not only in our locker room and with our young team, but in the community. And we weren't just gonna, trade him for a pick. And we continue dialogue with his agent and Mark and see where it goes.
Of the three you acquired today, players, who do you see in the Columbus lineup this season?
We'll have to see. I mean, Justin Falk's coming here right away. We're in a situation right now. We have 6 healthy defensemen, so he's coming here. William Karlsson and Rene Bourque will join Springfield. We'll see where it goes. Rene Bourque's scored 25 goals twice in his career in the NHL. He'll go to Springfield, and we'll see where he's at. And William Karlsson has shown great NHL potential this year already with Anaheim, and he's been good in the American League all year. And we'll see where it goes.
Jarmo, obviously you want to do what is right for the club first, but when it came time to look at trade partners for Leopold, did the player request consideration for Minnesota, was it something that you had in the back of your mind at all, or was this purely the best deal for the team?
We knew that he would prefer to go to Minnesota from his agent. He's been such a great pro. There's zero maintenance with Jordan Leopold. He just comes to the rink and does his job, and like I said, does all the right things. But we were well aware that his family was in Minnesota, and that would be his #1 choice if he had a say in it. And it was also a good deal for the club.
The Wisniewski trade is a big trade, but you didn't make a bunch of big bedrock sort of foundation changes here. Should that be read as a stamp that you believe in this club, that the injuries this season are a huge part of where this team is at, and that if you're just healthy next year things will be different, or do you feel like you need to make substantial changes yet?
I think that we will definitely look at all the options we have to improve our club in the off season. That's for sure. That's what we do. That's our job. But we do believe in this group. We did before this season. We've had some very good stretches here in when we've gotten near of being healthy and playing our game, and I've said it many times, I'd love to see our team healthy. Maybe in the last 10 games we'll get Boone Jenner back, we get Ryan Murray back, we get Bobrovsky back now. Maybe we get close to what we could be as a healthy team, but there's been some great stretches of 10 games here and there where we've seen that we're close to healthy and challenging all the best teams in the league. I think we have good foundation in place. We have a lot of the key pieces locked up for many years. And some of our core players are very young, and they're going to be more experienced and a year ahead again next year. So I believe that we'll have a good chance of doing some real damage next year with this group.
Well, that'll pretty much put a wrap on trade deadline day here in Columbus. The Blue Jackets sending out defenseman Jordan Leopold to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for Justin Falk. You just heard Jarmo Kekalainen tell us, and he just said in this media gathering that Justin will come here to play with the Blue Jackets. Also, a fifth-round pick is acquired from the Minnesota Wild in that deal. James Wisniewski goes to the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Rene Bourque and William Karlsson and a second-round pick this coming summer. And the other deal that the Blue Jackets made today, Cam Atkinson signs a 3-year contract extension. So just enough activity to keep you nice and busy and make you feel pretty good at the end.
Yeah, the players can relax now. I bet Cam feels fantastic. We had him on air. He's got to feel tremendous about that. James Wisniewski just tweeted he's excited to get to Anaheim with his new teammates. His family is from, his wife is from there, and her family's from there. So hope that's a good fit for him. We wish him well. He's been great to us. And we can stop looking at our phone.
That's the best part of it all. That is truly the best part of the whole thing, right? Not often do you do a show where you look at your phone the entire time, right? So that is that. That'll put a wrap on it from here at Nationwide Arena. Thanks for watching this special Trade Deadline Day edition of CBJin30. Jody, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun today. Hope you enjoyed it. We did. And we'll be back at it for a regular game day tomorrow. The Blue Jackets taking on the Washington Capitals right here at Nationwide Arena. Until then, so long on Jackets TV, presented by Ohio Health.